And hi, I'm so excited. Dick Algier, did I say your last name right?
Allgire is called.
Algire, Algire.
Yeah, who was I talking to? Oh, I did the Jeff Rich program yesterday, and he said Allgire or Allgire, and I said no, it was Allgire, my news director when I was on TV when I was a
You
young
were a
man.
news anchor? Oh
Yeah,
my
I was a
gosh.
news anchor, but that was another life. He said, if you don't do good, I'm going to call you a partial guyer, but if you do well, you can be Allgire. All
That's funny. Now I'll never
guyer.
forget it. Algire.
I grew up in high school. I was a photographer because my dad had cameras. And so I became the school newspaper photographer. And I thought it was cool because I could get a hall pass to go work on the school newspaper. So for me, if you weren't in class, you'd get in trouble. But I had like these all access hall passes so I could wander around and not be in class. Like I'm on assignment. And so
Yeah.
then in college, I got an internship and became a reporter. And for me, what a cool job to go get to do interesting things, to like the volcanoes erupting, fly to the Big Island and see the volcano.
Where did you live at this point?
That was when I was in Hawaii. I moved to Hawaii in '85. I was originally a newscaster in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Very cool.
Just interesting things would happen and you get to go witness them and they pay me to do it. So I had a natural curiosity. And one day in 1996, I was driving to work and I used to listen to news radio. This was prior to the internet. So when I'm driving to work, this was in Hawaii from one side of the island through the rainforest, over the mountains, beautiful drive. Going to work in the afternoon, I would listen to the news radio, but news headlines at the top of the hour,
You're like
President
10,
Bush did
10, 10 wins or one of those. Yeah, I
yeah,
get it.
I'm knowing what's going to be happening today. And coming back, it would be 11 at night. And that news radio broadcast a show that was coast to coast AM with Art Bell. Did you ever
And
hear
yeah, Art Bell, I know, but also, isn't that George Norrie?
Art Bell preceded George Norrie? And
Okay.
so I heard Art Bell talking about something called remote viewing. And I went, ding, if that's true, I got to know about it.
Yeah, I mean, come on, that's the coolest thing ever.
And so I trained as a remote viewer, and luckily, there's a guy here in Hawaii that was never publicized, but he was kind of underground. He was U.S. Army Special Forces intelligence named Glenn Wheaton, and he was in a top secret unit that he left in the early 90s. When it was declassified, he started teaching. So I started learning from him. So here I am at the end of my career in the early 2000s. I'm a mainstream newscaster. I go put on a suit and tie, and like just all very strict and legitimate. I'm Dick Allgire, and this is the news. But in my spare time, I'm remote viewing, and like I'm going to Mars, and I'm seeing all this fabulous stuff.
The
We
big
were doing,
juxtaposition between where you are, you're playing two lives.
yeah, we're doing work for the police department on this secretly. Like, hey, we got a missing person. What can you tell us? And so I'd go to a news conference with that detective, and he'd go, pretend you don't know me, like I don't know you. And meanwhile, I'm slipping him information. So it was a double life. They're very careful when you're on TV. You don't want to soil that image.
It discounts the real work that you're doing, but yet
Yeah,
it's true now. We all know. But of course, back then it was like, the cover of a magazine, like some crazy thing.
yeah,
Woman gives birth to alien, but meanwhile, it's probably true.
yeah. So it's now I've retired from TV,
No, you
thankfully.
haven't. I feel like you're getting a resurgence because you have this great personality. When you're up there with the whiteboard and you're describing things and you can
Yeah.
just feel the energy. So I think this might be a start to like your own little show, podcast, whatever, more
Well,
so than
we
just radio.
actually we're developing quite a little media empire at futureforecastinggroup.com. We're expanding and doing more and more. So if ever I feel the need to be on camera, and I do once in a while, I put on a Hawaiian shirt and
Mhm.
I turn on a camera and I do a segment for YouTube or a segment for our subscribers. So
Well,
I
I think
still,
that's great.
yeah, I still have that,
Where I remember you came out and were like, listen, we want to just make sure
yeah.
that because the timelines can change, but if people can look at it and say, I don't consent to this timeline and let's create something better versus the fear factor, which feeds into it, it's so important what you're doing.
Well, 2 years ago, we were doing a standard target that was something else. It was a future financial target. And all the viewers got this 9/11 where we saw people shooting each other and bombs going off and this dramatic sneak attack deal. And this was summer of three, I think it was. Yeah. And so we missed this target, like it was a financial target, but we got this death and destruction and mayhem, and it feels like it's going to be the next 9/11. And we thought, should we publish that? Should we say that? And we actually had meetings with all the viewers, like, guys, what do you think? Like, we don't want to be fear porn alarmist.
Yeah, you don't want to solidify the timeline either. I get it too.
Yeah. And we were like, what if we're wrong? We don't want to scare people. And so we looked at our data, and because it corroborated, like 5 different viewers had similar things, we put it out. And so a month before the Hamas attack in Israel, October 7th, we put that out and showed it. And so that was,
I remember that you guys had the power, everything was on there and it was just like
yeah,
so detailed. And that's, I think, when I was like, wow, they know what's up. Like these people are really legit. I
we
started
just got to be
following.
responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to, there's a lot of fear porn out there, and we don't want to feed that. But that one was one that we
Well, I
did.
mean, the recent one that you just, I don't know if you can talk about it yet. I mean, that had like a feel to it that was like biblical almost and like so
Him.
spiritual. Yeah, with the people. And I'm like thinking, is this really happening? Like the Pope just died and then Schwab stepped down and all these changes are happening. And we're supposed to come into this age of light after, we break down the old system. So all of this seems to be occurring. And I don't know if you have any viewpoint on the Pope thing, because that's, a lot of people are like,
Oh,
what
you
happened?
want to know about the Pope? I'll tell you about
Yes.
the Pope. This is something most people won't tell you. I grab my notes.
Interesting.
When people say the President of the United States is the most powerful man in the world, that is certainly not true. Here's my understanding. Excuse me. I have a little cold. I was.
I'm like so curious about if you're gonna about to talk about the three levels of popes, and then
Yeah,
they're like,
my understanding is this: the highest authority, human authority on earth, is the Pope. The Pope, the Catholic Church, owns the world. They conquered it. Below Pope, in terms of power, is the Archbishop Metropolites and Archbishops.
mhm,
Below that, crowned monarchs. So you have royal families that are royal bloodlines throughout history. Below that is cardinals in the Catholic Church.
mhm.
Below that would be grand masters, masters, imperators, and these are the secret orders and
Freemasons,
Freemasons. So,
right?
being a secret to be in a royal order, you have to have a royal bloodline. It's
Yes.
like you're chosen, you're given the secret knowledge. And to be a Freemason, you don't have to have royal blood, but you have to go through a lot of vetting.
Initiations, weddings.
One of my guys is a 32nd degree Scottish Freemason.
I have
He's
a
a,
33rd degree one, actually two.
oh, there you go.
And
Well,
one of them is a wizard, and he works for. I won't say anything else. It works for Discovery
well,
Channel.
I'm a wizard. My remote viewing teacher is a wizard. I'll tell you some
And
stuff.
what? Well, this is weird. I met a male wizard and a female wizard literally within a year span, and then and like all this other stuff. This is great. And now you know a wizard. This isn't. I've never
Yeah,
met a
okay.
wizard before.
Okay. So if I finish the flow chart.
Yeah.
Below that is viceroys, and viceroys are the representative of the crowned monarchs who oversee land owned by the monarch, a loyal title land. So if you take the United States, that is owned loyally by the crown, the royal family.
Right. It all goes back to
The
Queen
viceroy,
Victoria and the allodial titles and well, yeah, it's a
their
long story.
viceroy for many years was Henry Kissinger. You look at why was Henry Kissinger in the Nixon White House telling them what to do? Why
Yeah, I
was
know
Henry
him.
Kissinger in the Gerald Ford White House, the Jimmy Carter White House, the Obama White House? Up until recent years, he was still there. He was telling them policy is implemented by the owner, and then it's presidents. Okay, why am I?
Wait. Now, can I give you my assessment and tell me, because you're a remote viewer, you must know this is true or not. So you didn't mention, you said the Pope, but there's the white Pope, there's the black Pope, and the gray Pope.
I'll have to ask my source on that. I know there's a
Okay.
black pope.
So above that, the gray Pope, and above the gray Pope are the Orsinis, the Medicis. I hope it's okay saying all this. And that whole bloodline, which
Yeah,
is the original, right?
there are,
And then it goes deeper. Then it goes into the
well, then it goes
ETs.
off planet.
Then it goes ETs, and then it goes into archon. It goes into many levels, and then it goes into the spiritual and the other dimensional levels.
Below.
You got it. So
This place didn't just happen. Like this planet and this moon, they tell us this story that, like, oh, here's this planet, and there was this primordial ooze, and somehow an organic chemical formed up through light, and the lightning struck or something, and then a single-celled organism came about, and then it evolved, and it evolved to have eyes.
yeah, sure. And then 200,000 years ago, just stopped and created a whole new species called Homo sapien, which basically had slightly different genetics. What happened there? I mean, there's so many
This was
mysteries.
all created as a petri dish, and
Exactly. A living library is what the Earth experiment's about.
yes,
It's
exactly.
an
And
experiment.
DNA is a mechanical replication tool. So DNA
It's an
uses
antenna too.
the raw materials of this earth, and they actually had. I remote viewed this one. Now, my news director
Mhm.
would hear this and go, "God, I can't believe we put this guy on TV. He's friggin' crazy." But I saw. I forget what the target was. Oh, the target was. Uh, I think creation of the Grand Canyon or some cataclysmic event like
Is
that.
there a sphinx under there or in the four corners of the United States?
Yeah, there's stuff down there that,
Oh
yeah.
my God. I know that
But,
there's
but what
ET
I
artifact.
saw,
What did you say?
I saw the keeper of the DNA. Like there was somebody.
The guy runs a quantum simulation that we're in?
They have a library of DNA, and they can go, okay,
That's what Noah had, DNA, not two of every animal. He had
yeah,
DNA.
we've got this. Yeah, it's a allegory.
Mhm.
So they can look at certain parameters of the environment and create DNA or tweak it and create something that will have the gravity specific levels of CO2 and oxygen.
Like how we were created for Mars, but then when the Mars civilization blew
Yeah.
up and they moved us here, that's why our bodies are more calibrated with Mars.
So they create this body, this earth suit, and they bring a soul into it, and the soul gets put into it.
But then you've remote viewed how you take the soul out. Like there are people, I know it exists that the soul can be extracted. There's different technologies, there's jump gates. Like, does that where it gets really weird because it's multiple dimensions, or is this actually still happening within this dimension?
Can't really speak authoritatively on that because as a remote viewer, you're not omniscient. You get little snatches of things, and I don't recall actually remote viewing that.
Oh, do you remember the moon? Did you go to the moon? Because that's another one that I know I'm up
Yeah,
there somewhere. Being me, there's like a copy of me, a genetic copy or something, a clone. And I know I'm up there going like, I'm gonna get you out of there. Don't worry. Because I know it's fake and I always have been known it's fake. It's been pulled in 12,500 years ago, right? From
they needed.
Andrade.
This is a nice planet, but they needed something to create the tides.
The title lock, but it was also the lock for the third dimensional matrix over the five-dimensional original quantum grid
Yeah,
that was, yeah, okay. So we're on the same page here. So we really are in a simulation, but it's hard to like, for everyone to understand that. But the proof is there because if it is rendered, like Dolores Cannon said, as you go into a stadium, no one is there, but when you're there, you're rendering that crowd. And those crowds are representatives of energy, but not everybody's like a soul. It's just an extra in your play. That's rendering. That's like a computer program, like a
yeah.
game.
So we'll take this back to remote
Sorry.
viewing.
Yes, back to remote viewing.
Your essence, and this is why we're all psychic. It's why you're psychic and are able to do that. It's why I'm able to be a
Everybody.
remote viewer.
Mhm.
My I've had things happen when I was younger, like the first girl I ever fell in love with. I puppy love in high school. Mary Conscious, I was so in love with her. Parent teacher night or something. So we had like 2 days off. So I said, "All right, we'll go to a movie." And she said, "Oh, I gotta go see my grandmother." I went, "Okay, we'll see you the next night." And so that night I had a dream where I saw her with a guy that I knew from another situation, didn't know that he knew. I saw them together. So I go on my next date with her. I said, God, I had this really weird dream. I saw you with this guy named Scott that I know from
It's like,
the swimming pool I go to. And she said, How did you bring that up? And I
see?
said, I had this dream. She goes, Are you accusing me of something? I
You're
said, No.
following me?
She said, I did.
Wow. So that's
Like,
like a,
what? How did I know that?
wow.
I had a dog that I loved. I mean, this dog was so close to me, a beautiful German Shepherd.
What's the name?
Dire Wolf. Direwolf from a Grateful Dead song. I was a big Deadhead.
Yeah, me too. I went to the last show in like 1993 before he
I was to
passed away.
scuba dive with Jerry Garcia. I was
Well,
his.
okay, now you just taught me. I'm like, I went to a show. It was one of the, you're like, oh, well, yeah, he's my best man. Like, what are you
So
talking
I
about?
came to Hawaii as a young man. I left my dog at home in Utah. I was going to bring him out, but they had this draconian, you had to put them in a kennel because of rabies for like 6 months or something. And I thought, I can't put him through that. And so I left him there, but I felt awful about it. And I had a dream one night that he came to me in the dream and he looked at me and telepathically said, "Why are you doing this to me? Where are you?" And I told my sister that. And she said, "Mom and Dad gave him away. They thought he'd be happier on a farm. And I had a bad feeling. And I went just yesterday and he was chained up out in the snow near death. And I rescued him." And I said, "I dreamed that." And so,
Good thing you followed your instinct and said something because I think that's,
yeah. So, anyway, we all have had moments like this where you know something where, um, a recent one is I was driving down the street and there was a Honolulu bus, a city bus. And I looked at the license plate and it said bus BUS 543. And it occurred to me, oh, all the buses have the BUS as the first three numbers. I never knew that. And then you just remember the number 543. If you ever had to report
yeah,
something,
it's a lot
that would be
easier.
easy to do. And I thought that, and I thought, why didn't I think of this? So I pull up to a stoplight, and I go down the block, and the bus pulls over and picks someone up. I go to the next stoplight, and I stop, and the bus ran the stoplight. And I thought, oh my God, I knew, I should call that in, but I had had that premonition. If
Right,
it's
like you had already looked and your higher self was like, listen, you're gonna need to take
okay,
that down.
so everybody has that experience. Everybody has a subconscious awareness that is in this greater field of consciousness. Consciousness is a dimension. There's a dimension of consciousness where all information, everything is all happening. Now, everything that's ever happened or going to happen is resonating. When we get our souls married to these bodies, are having this experience. So we're perceiving things with stereoscopic vision,
1% of the visible spectrum, right?
parabolic antenna, audio antennas and field type, but it focuses on this very narrow band.
Is that the reticular activating system, the RAS, where your brain actually hones in? So it's looking for specific things. Like
Yeah.
if you get a new car that's a Mini Cooper, all of a sudden you start seeing Mini Coopers everywhere.
Oh
Because
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it's like similar. It's like a programming thing that we do to ourselves almost.
So remote viewing teaches you a way to displace a portion of your awareness into that other consciousness field, and it's a series of very ritualistic programmed queries. So you query the same way every time. You create an ideogram and you touch it and you instantly know. You close your eyes and look.
How many times do you have to do it to memorize that first blueprint or whatever you're doing to get it
Oh,
to
it takes months and months. There's like 230 things you got to learn to pick up your pen. It's like a Japanese tea ceremony.
right? It's almost like an initiation, wax on, wax off. You have to do every single thing a
Exactly,
certain way.
exactly. You do the
But in order
same thing
to
every
learn that
time.
superpower, because it's like a superpower that is it because you're doing the same thing every time with the same target, you said?
No, no, in a
Right.
remote viewing protocol, every time I look at, okay, they just gave me a target, and let me look up the target ID. So they give us just a target reference number. We
Right.
were totally double blind.
Which I
So talking about the ritualistic protocol, they just gave me a target and it was Z8I9BG3. That could be anything, anywhere. Like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I have to give a report, like a 20-minute report on
yeah. I didn't even know
Z8I9BG3.
what to do.
And I'm not a psychic, for God's sakes. How can I ever do that? But what I do is I get my mind right and I realize that is a target, CO99B2G3. I'm gonna follow the protocol. So I have a clean desk, a clean stack of paper, my pen laid out. I pick up the pen and I go like this, and I write the word ideogram. I slide over, I write page one, colon, Dick, colon. I draw a line across the page, I write the target ID, memorize the target ID, write it again. I close my eyes, I project that target ID up in my visual field. You would call it third eye, but they call it, the Army called it blackboard. and then I open my eyes, and then I look for 2 seconds, and I draw whatever I saw. So I don't have to be psychic and figure out what this is. I just have to do the next thing. And then I write the target ID and I make an instinctive scribble. And I probe it and I say, is this simplex or complex? Is it hard or soft? Is it man-made or natural? Is it moving or at rest? And step by step, looking like I see a countryside. So throughout the course of an hour, go ahead.
Do you think it's quantum entangled within that framework of numbers and you're tapping into
Yes.
the field?
What happens is we have a person that is the most important link in the remote
The
viewing
lady
process.
on the show, was she the lady?
It's the targeteer.
Oh,
If someone selects this target, they want us to work this target. Well, they give a package of all the information about the target to the targeteer. He goes on a computer and generates he goes to random.org and generates the random letters and numbers. And then there's a ritualistic thing he does where he, with a clean desk, a clean mind, sits down, recites that target ID, and quantum entangles that with the target.
quantum
So that
entangles
it,
it.
in essence, becomes the address.
So basically, remote viewing proves that quantum entanglement is not only real, but it is that specifically guiding that you're
Yeah.
using quantum. Like that in itself should be like all over the place because it proves that when two molecules, atoms, whatever you call them, protons, electrons are together,
Yeah.
they basically will connect and be the same. Or if you split them over because they are the same, they're going to reflect what one is here and one is here, even if it's trillions of miles away.
So remote viewing is, in essence, time travel because what I'm doing by gradually getting little bits of data about that target, like what does it smell like there? What does it feel like? What are the colors? I'm emulating that target. And by emulating, I am quantum entangling my consciousness with the target. And then I manifest that in my primary awareness.
So basically, remote viewing is what we're going to be able to do without the mathematical or the other parts of it. It's just going to be like mental telepathy at some point because what we're doing is focusing your skills and your attention through the ritual to get your mind in that frequency.
Yeah.
And then when you're in that frequency, you're able to almost be on that same almost frequency of the event. So you're getting data like
Exactly.
sent back and forth. But if we have mental telepathy, it's the same thing as you think of a friend and they call, but it'll be more specific. Like you'll be like, oh, Jane is asking me a question. Okay. Because we'll be more quantum entangled, I would think, with the of us having more of a telepathic
It's,
higher
it's
DNA.
how mothers know when their children are in trouble.
Right. It's
Yeah,
that
they
natural
can
DNA
feel it.
connection. Right. Or twins. Twins is another big one. They always have twins, always feel like identical twins. If something
Mhm.
happens to one, the other will feel it. It usually manifests in some capacity.
Well, we're part of the universe, so our atoms are actually, what was the song? We are stardust.
Calcium, nitrogen, all of it are made the same stuff.
Yeah, it's all a result of some nuclear explosion or whatever. However, stars.
Or does this resonate from anything? Maybe it's just us in a higher version of ourselves that could be appearing as ascended masters or archangels or whatever. And we are giving ourselves our own test that we asked and set up with the blueprint. Like, I'd like to meet so and so at this point, I'd like to have this conversation. I'd like to have these exit points or potential learning points and remind me when I'm here because make it so synchronistic that I will wake up. Like everything that's geared towards, I don't know if you've experienced it, but there's no way, unless my higher self was me, that that person would know exactly the way my mind works and exactly the things that I would like versus someone like you because it's almost as if they are you to be able to know you that well. So if they are you and God's within you, and even, Jesus and Yeshua taught all this, the kingdom of God is within us and we are part of God, then aren't we all just one ball of source energy or divine creator? Or
Yeah, yeah. So I'll tell you how my remote viewing teacher wizardry, some wizard tricks that you call it synchronicity, we called it coinkydinks. And what we were taught was that there's no real randomness, that consciousness cooperates. So things aren't random. Things happen through the cooperation of consciousness.
observer.
One day, I trained with Glenn Wheaton for 18 years, every week we had classes. And we got into really advanced stuff. When we got to where we could remote view, you'd go, okay, we'd go to his house and we would sit around the table. There'd be like 6 or 8 of us. And he would have a bag or a box with poker chips, red, blue, and white poker chips all mixed up. And he'd say, okay, I want you to reach in and just randomly pull out 3 poker chips, like blue, blue, red, red, blue, blue, red, white, blue, go around the table, blue, blue, red. So we did that for a while, like 3 iterations. And then one of the viewers, Jason, pulled out blue, white, blue. And Glenn goes, okay, Jason, I want you to look under your seat and see what, and he goes, oh, there's a piece of paper. He goes, open the piece of paper and see what it says. It says, on the third round, Jason will pull out
Whoa,
blue.
that's crazy.
And I later, some months later said, Glenn, how did you do that? And he goes, before you guys came, I sat down in every chair and I played every game. I selected randomly, and I selected on this one when I knew Jason would sit there. He played every one and did it.
So it's
And
almost like he tested the energy of each spot to almost like
and
timeline.
trained the environment
So
so that
train the environment, not to pick up on what would happen in the future, but to actually train the current environment because it's all now.
yeah. Okay, there's another one he did where he was giving a lecture on how remote viewing works and how entrainment and other
Can you do
things.
that real quick? Do you want to give like a 2 second, 5 second summary about like remote viewing and how you said you took a piece of your consciousness, but then do you have to use numbers or do you just given that sequence? Do you have to use like parallels and different longitude and latitude? Because that's what I thought it was.
Well, okay, that's how it started.
Okay.
Was they were testing psychics to see if they could describe a distant location. So they'd get a map and they'd go like latitude
Right.
1473, longitude 2811, whatever, and that was a place on a map, and that happened to be a lake next to a mountain. The remote viewer said, I see a lake and there's a mountain, and they could check it out. And the skeptics were saying, well, maybe these psychics have memorized every latitude and longitude. They can just go, okay, I know that's in Canada. And so what they realized was that they could mix up the numbers, they could randomize the numbers, and the remote viewers could still do it. It wasn't, it
Well,
was the intent.
consciousness is not localized, so it's the
Yeah,
intention,
I
and
could,
that's what's amazing about it.
I could use a musical ditty as a remote viewing target. Like if I looked at the target and I played diddly diddly, diddly diddly, that this target is diddly diddly. And if I played that for a remote viewer, they could use that as a target cue. I
So
could,
basically, if you do this practice initiation, it's like karate. You're learning a skill, right? You're getting your body and everything trained, and then it becomes like second nature. And then when you're trying to learn something new, it almost just knows what to do because it's already following that kind of sequence and protocol. And then it's like just makes that association that it knows how to do it. So can't we apply this is like Neo. Can't we apply this technique to like everything? Like there's got to be some sort of ritual that you can do that then like once you learn the process, it can replicate each process that's similar.
well, what happened is after years of doing the protocol of
Mhm.
the certain amount of time, it opens up a communication pathway so you don't need to do the ritual anymore.
Got it.
So I'm getting to the point where I can remote view by just, okay, what is it?
See, that's the thing that's so
And
amazing.
things come to me and they just occur. It opens the pathway.
So that learning process that you went through, I feel like in this new energy, instead of having to go through those typical rituals and learnings and everything else, there'll be a ritual or a lesson, or we'll get to a point where we passed our lessons, and then they'll just be almost instant versus like having to hone it because that's what stopped me from taking a remote viewing class is I have no spatial awareness. Like I can never tell it's just the way I am. So when I saw latitude and longitude, I'm like, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at that. But now that you're saying it's if you follow this almost ritual, then it almost programs your avatar to be able to do these things, like to step out of its box of a mind.
I just went to Korea. My wife is Korean, and we went there to visit and do some other things. And so there's a Korean YouTuber that is really interested in consciousness and remote viewing and UFOs stuff. So I had done a program with him. So he said, would you teach a class? I said, I can't teach a remote viewing in one day, but I'll do an introductory lecture. So I took some I took some targets, like that's a target ID. That is a Korean letter. Yeah, I don't really read Korean. 9, and then another Korean letter, and same way I helped me do this. And that was a, so I gave them just an introductory. I said, close your eyes, look up at an angle, focus about where you read a book and write that target ID, and then open your eyes. And when I said go, then close your eyes and look for 2 seconds. Go, stop, draw out what you saw. And the target was a wave, this perfect wave called pipeline.
Yeah, the pipeline when you're surfing and you can
And this woman, this Korean woman, drew a perfect spiral. She drew the wave perfectly. Another guy drew something more like this. He said it's white on top. And
right.
so then I gave them a target that was the tallest building in Seoul, Korea, called Lotte Tower. And they drew long, thin lines. And I gave them a crop circle, and they drew a circle with circles within it.
Are they
So
like the most
then
advanced you've seen? Or are they like that good? Or
there's something called the first timers effect. And there's also
it's
the
like
fact,
gambling's like that. Beginner's luck, they call it. Because you're
okay,
not
one more
thinking
big
so hard.
gambling story.
Because thinking is what gets you in trouble.
We trained for 6 months. The Hawaii Remote Viewers Guild, that's the people that trained with Glenn. He bought a roulette wheel.
Roulette, 15 and
And
30.
he had it at his house. And we took Monopoly game pieces like house, shoe, car. And so
By the
when,
way, real quick, do you remember him having a monocle? The guy from Monopoly, the little character on the
yeah,
bottom.
yeah,
He
go
had
to
a monocle, right?
jail.
Okay, no,
Go to jail, do not pass go.
yeah, with the monocle, he doesn't anymore. Mandela effect. It never existed. And I'm sorry,
I always had a monocle.
yeah, but no, they're saying it never existed. It's one of the things. I'm like, come on, stop it. Just
No, I remember. Okay, so we had these game pieces and we referred to each other as Mr. Shoe or Mr. House
oh,
or
okay.
Mr. Car. That was part of the entrainment. And we had these trained remote viewers, and the first person would position number one, which would be like Mr. Shoe, and Mr. Shoe would have to decide, is it going to be red or black? And he would intuitively say black. And the second person, Mrs. House,
Mhm.
would just have to know first 12, second 12, or third 12, and would determine that. And then the third person, like Mr. Carr, would place bets on the second 12, everything black. And we practiced that, and we got to where, after a while, the ball would fall where we expected it to be. We would observe it. We wouldn't cause it. We would observe it. And so we
You
practiced
were
it.
all focusing on the same number, like 15, and then it would go there.
No,
Okay.
someone would make a decision, red or black, and say the ball is going to hit in a red space. Okay, we're going to watch that, and it's going to hit in a red space in the second 12 numbers. And if it hits on the second 12, it's going to be this number, this number, this number. Each person had basically a binary choice. So we went to Las Vegas to a remote viewing convention, and we went into it. We went and we found a roulette wheel, and we agreed, this one looks good. We like this one. And we stood there and we said, well, Mr. Shue, are you ready? Yes, Mr. Carr. How about you, Mr. House? Yes, I'm ready. And the croupier is looking at us like, these guys are crazy. And Mr. House said, I'm going to bet red because I can only bet red. And the other person said, I'm going to bet the third 12. And it went ding, 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 ding. We sat there and it went red 11 in a row. And we were hit a winning streak that was, but Las Vegas has its own entrainment. Las
They
Vegas,
have coolers there to stop purposely, which is energy. They have a cooler. So
yeah,
they know all about it. But
yeah.
when you say
Our goal was if we could out entrain Las Vegas, it would be a feat because they have ding ding ding, the lights and the sounds. You
when you
can't
say
find a
train,
bathroom. You can't find your way out.
when you say train, you give people an identity so that they step out of who they are. So they're entrained to be part of that script, almost like.
And we were holding the. I still have mine.
So are you telling
We
me?
were holding the tokens, the amulets in our hand.
But
We were holding game pieces.
are you telling me that when people act like acting and they get together with the intention of playing a certain role, like you guys were, that they are now in this almost frequency bubble of connection and it makes them be able to entrain their consciousness almost like quantum entangle it easier because they're all the
Yeah,
same? Like,
they're in training an environment. An environment can be trained. So we practiced this for months of how we would do this. And we went to Las Vegas. We took our game pieces. We held these talismans, and we had done what we rehearsed. We said red, second 12, this number. And we did very well. We weren't gambling. We didn't care about the money. We just wanted to see the result. We were there to observe.
Did you do this on purpose because you can remote view? Did you realize I have a gambling problem and that like this is probably something that's like very emotional for me because I love roulette and gambling? Or was this just like a guess? Because you probably used the most perfect example for someone like me and like how that you couldn't actually, because I always said this, I'm like, gambling is about the frequency and the timing because the algorithm is already set and it's random, but it's about your timing and your higher self knowing. And everybody be like, you're insane. I'm
So
like,
we're playing this game where we bet on black first 12 and had
right.
the numbers. And the guy
Let's
dropped
try
the
it with
ball
slow
in the
motion.
roulette wheel, and the ball spun around, and it dropped in a number, and it bounced out of the wheel, popped up, and went into the pit somewhere else. And they had to halt everything and bring the pit boss in. And they were like, well, what just happened?
And like, we
So
pause the
it
game for
was.
that.
So my teacher, as we were rehearsing this, gave a lecture, and I have this on videotape somewhere because I was videotaping it. He gave this 40-minute lecture standing at his roulette wheel, and there was a chess pawn on like red 6, but we didn't know that.
But isn't that like the stopper for when they pay you? They left it on there? Or is it something?
Well, my remote viewing teacher, he had an actual pawn.
Oh,
It was a
from
chess.
the Monopoly game. Oh, a chess
Yeah.
pawn.
No. So he had it on a number on the railroad, but he's giving us this long lecture, 45-minute lecture on how consciousness works and how entrainment works. And someone asked him a question, challenged him. We're like, what is it? I mean, you can't say this. And Glenn said, well, would you believe it if you saw it with your own eyes? And with that, he spun the wheel and dropped the ball in, and the ball went and dropped in like red 6. And he just stood there, and I went, oh my God, it just landed in he had that the whole time he was lecturing, he had the piece on that.
What's the number to sign up for the course for remote? Like, I'm not even kidding you.
Well, it's at rare studying classes. You go to
Yeah.
forecasters, futureforecasters.com. We should teach you because
Yeah, please.
we've had several women that were naturally psychic and have your natural ability. And some of them come in and they say, this is too militaristic, it's too structured, it's too, what's the word? It's too rigorous. What's a bad way to say disciplined? Like
Like, God,
the words are on the tip of my tongue, but it's too confining.
mm,
Others, there was one named Rose Kopp who was a great natural psychic, and she said, "Oh, this guy's the sensei. He's the teacher." And
oh my God, I always tell people a sensei. I'm like, yes, yes,
she
sensei.
did it exactly like he said, and she became amazing remote viewer. Amazing.
Before
Yeah,
I
well,
want to learn.
I'll give you the introductory course. We'll let you try it.
And I never would even said it except for somebody from the Montauk Project reached out to me and I was like, Montauk Project, really? And he gave me all this info, but he goes, you're a remote viewer. And I was like, I'm a half a psychic. I'm not really a remote viewer. He goes, no, you're a remote viewer. And then I thought maybe my half a psychic and seeing these timelines that I see play out, sometimes good, bad, is remote viewing and I don't know it. So I am so appreciative because this is like my dream to be able to like learn and not have to do math, like
Okay,
with all
let,
that stuff.
let me tell you how this works.
Mhm.
These you have to draw a line backwards. You have to draw a matrix. You have to label it. You have to probe a little thing and then instantly get it. And there's all these chores. When you start a session, there is no moment for the next 45 minutes that you get to think your own thought or make every movement is prescribed. You're going to move your pen and put your eyes a certain way, look for a certain amount of time, write an answer, and it's all like very mechanical.
All to block your conscious mind from interfering.
Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is when you're talking with me right now, you are in beta awareness. You are fully engaged, you're fully conscious, you're fully in the here and now. You're absolutely 100% aware of all your surroundings. You're focused. In that state, if I ask you about like if I told you, remember what a banana smells like,
I do.
Wrong. Okay. So when you're in that alert consciousness, your target contact is limited to.
Right.
If you linger longer, your imagination intrudes in it. Like if
The
I tell you,
wave goes
if I tell you
further.
look for the target now, whatever you see is your subconscious. But if I say to you, imagine the Pope in a clown suit getting out of a Volkswagen, it's going to take you three, four, a few seconds to visualize that. That's your imagination. You want to keep imagination at bay. So as you're working these very structured and demanding protocols, about 20 to 30 minutes in, you get engrossed in that. And it's like when you're reading a book, you're not aware of turning the pages, you're just following the story.
Mhm.
So you go into an alpha awareness, a daydreaming state.
I'm
And
always in
now you're
normal.
able, you're not really thinking about being at your desk. You're thinking more about the target, and stuff starts bubbling up like, oh, there's a guy and he's angry about something and he's yelling at people, and the people don't like him because he demanded something, and it starts cascading. And then our method, and this was brilliant, the special forces guys that figured this out. After about an hour, there's a moment where you can put down your pen, you put a gentle pressure on your optic, on your eyeball, you do a breathing exercise, you come to a full stop. Now, yeah, don't know. It's like,
It's programmed into you with this whole routine.
yeah,
Oh, it goes,
no, this knuckle of your thumb is the same width as your eyeball, so you're putting it,
wow. You're
and
really
when you're
like,
resting your arms, you're resting very gently. But anyway,
oh, wow.
you gotta rest your elbows on the table.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to learn a lot from this. This is cool.
But I'm teaching advanced
Yeah.
protocol. It's like 6 minutes. What I'm trying to explain is that you've been working for an hour. You've gone from very alert to daydreaming, and now we give you a mental exercise that takes you to that moment between sleep and awake,
Right. It's almost
and
like
then
hypnosis.
a little dream starts, and you have experiential contact with the target.
Okay. This is my favorite part. I was a lucid dreamer for many years where I literally had even a test I talked about on one of the podcasts where I would like see, because I'm modest, I try to like take my clothes off in the dream and I'd be like, oh my God, if I wouldn't do that, then I'm not dreaming. And if I would, it'd be like, oh my God, I'm definitely dreaming. And once I was lucid, it was the best feeling I've ever had because it was like no fear, no anxiety, but you can create anything and you know you're not going to get in trouble and you can have any experience. Is anything with remote viewing kind of like that? Like, are you actually an avatar that you're remote viewing and people, because I've heard people can see you, people can
Well,
like,
I'll explain how it is for me. Tony Brown gave me a target, I think 12 years ago, was target. He just said, this is target 15A. It's a new project, it's A. And so I got on the computer and I generated L7V9.
just out of the blue it came to you subconscious, like you
And
just
so I said, that's target 15 that Courtney wants me to remote
right.
view. And so I did the thing, and I saw a building that was kind of gothic looking, like a old
Sure.
European set building, and then I saw a city street, and there were people there, and then I got better target contact, and I'm out, I'm doing the meditative thing, and all of a sudden this little patch of green came into my field of vision, and it expanded, and I knew it was grass, and I go, okay, it's happening, a little part of me, and I'm in this park and there's green grass, and I could see the sky was blue, but it wasn't. It was not summer. It was blue sky, but the sun was weak.
Right.
It wasn't a summer day. It was blue sky, but the sun was weak. And there was green grass, and there was people over about 50 to 100 yards away, and there was a road off to my side, and there was an old lamppost, like a lamppost from the 50s. And I go, oh, I'm here. What am I supposed to see? Because you have no idea what the target is. And I go, why am I here? What am I going to
Yeah.
see? And I go, okay, there's grass, there's people over there, there's old buildings, and there's a lamppost, and there's a road right here. And I started thinking about it too much. Like, okay, I got to see this, I got to see this, I got to remember it. And my conscious mind started analyzing it. And I woke up and I was at my desk. And I was going, man, that was so vivid.
So you actually wake up from it, like you're in it. It's almost like a dream
Yeah,
almost.
yeah. And then all of a sudden, I kind of jerked, and I'm at my desk. Oh, I was remote viewing.
Does it release
That
DMT? Do
thought
you get
was
like DMT released or something that puts you in that trance from this
No,
ritual?
it was that moment when you're watching TV and you're tired and
I love that
you're
feeling.
dreaming, but you're in the TV.
Yeah.
So I saw that 10 seconds in that park, in the street and the lampposts and the people and the buildings, and I drew that, and then I go, I know that was the target, but why is that interesting? And so I went back and then I saw these people and I go, this is like a flash mob. It's like the people, they all came here and they're dressed in like office clothes
Right.
and
Like
they
they
come
they
here.
just left work to do something, right?
Like, why did they come here?
Hmm.
Like a flash mob.
Right.
They're going to see something or somebody. It came because something's going to happen. They're all going to look at it.
Right.
And then they're looking at it and they all of a sudden go, oh my God, oh wow,
Oh
it
no.
was the Kennedy assassination. I woke up in Dealey Plaza. I was there. I mean, I experienced Dealey Plaza as full experiential
Okay, so
reality.
then once you did that, did you go back in and like were you able to tap back into one's
I
head?
didn't know what the target was.
But
I didn't
how
know
long
what to
did it
say.
take?
I go, Target is a city street and people come to
When
look
did
at
you figure it
them.
out?
And then they all, and something spooked them, and they all went, "Oh my God!" And there was gunshots. And later, kind of figured it out.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
But
say,
that initial moment of what I was trying to describe was, you're totally blind to the target. It could be Mars, it could be the Templars, doing something, or it
like
could be,
Island Treasure.
yeah, what the financials crash is going to be 2 months from now.
Oh, two
And
months from now.
in this park, like, why am I in this park on a sunny day, but it's not hot? So, yeah, the
So
experiential
you
quality is,
knowing by like knowing and doing it with experience, it actually gives you that advantage because you can like then put pieces together of your past of like, oh wait, I did see that if you keep copious notes or if you like you can piece together puzzle pieces that you didn't know.
yeah, my teacher can get to that state and maintain it for quite a while and replay it. It's really hard for me. I don't always get there. I always get some good data pretty much, but I get there, I get thinking about it. Like, oh, I'm here, I'm seeing it, what do I need to see? And
Are
you
you
gotta,
sensitive? Are you very sensitive to light, sound, and just in general to life? Like you feel things more than others?
yeah. Well, it's hard because I've been remote viewing 25 years or 27 years. Like, I can stand next to someone in a supermarket and go, they're having a really bad day. The
Hmm.
father's going to get an abortion now. And like, does everybody know that? Like,
Right.
can't you see someone and go, I can see a child and know what they're going to look like when they're old? Or I can see an old person and know what they look like when they were young. And I
Right.
try to remember, like, did I do that as an adult before remote viewing? I don't think so. It changes you.
But I feel like you're almost born with this potential and you're driven towards that goal because it's in your blueprint. Like, oh, I'd love to, be a remote viewer or be able to be a seer. And maybe
Uh,
it's tied to being a seer or an oracle in a past life or somebody that, brought forth information. But literally, I was an oracle and that makes sense because I'm blind in one eye and I, could see myself like sitting over like one of those places by myself where people come to me because I love the couch and I love not to leave.
There's this fabulous psychic in Hawaii named Lan Vo, this Vietnamese lady. And my teacher, when the US military was devising remote viewing, they were scouring the civilian world for psychics. And they found Ron Vo, and he went and had a reading with her and said she was really good. So I finally had a reading with her 4 years ago. She had me in tears in 10 seconds.
To
She
tell you
said,
you were psychic.
no, she said, oh, I'll tell you the
Yeah, tell
I
me.
I have a couple of good law enforcement stories. She said, your friend died. And I just had a friend die. And I was like in tears. Okay, here's my best law enforcement story.
Mhm.
I had done a couple of readings with her. In the first reading, she went, I had a serious head injury, is why I left TV news. I got hurt on a news story. I whacked my head and had a brain injury. She said, you hit your head. She said, you was very serious. You almost died. She said, God woke you up. And she went, you do what I do. People around the world see you. They look you see for them and you tell them what you see.
Yes, you're a seer, so she knew it.
So,
So
okay, so we worked, I'll get real emotional on this. I always do. We had this exceptional woman from Japan named Hitomi Akamatsu who contacted us at the Hawaii Remote Viewers Guild. And she said, I'm coming to Hawaii and you'll teach me. And we're like, what? She goes, I'm coming to Hawaii so you can teach me. I'm like, well, we don't have a class. She goes, well, I'll be there and you can teach me. So she came and she got a hotel room and we gave her an intensive training. And she would train with other remote viewing teachers. And she was really good. I
Yeah.
made a documentary about her called Hitomi and the God Particle. I gave her the God Particle as a remote viewing target. And it was the most spectacular thing. And I happened to record it.
Do you have a documentary on that? Let's get it out there. Is it on?
Yeah, well,
Wow.
I'll show you that. I'll give you the link. But
See that? That's amazing. I know.
anyway, she was working with us, and I don't think she was fully human. She was like out of another dimension. She was a very, very special person. And she was in Brazil and she disappeared. And the people who worked with said, we need to do a remote viewing. Like Hitomi's not been seen. And she was murdered. She lost her life. She was killed.
Is it because of her
I
disability?
was very it was not easy for me. It was a tremendous loss to humanity. This beautiful young woman who was just so gifted in somebody's. She went on to the next place. A few weeks later, Lon Vo's assistant called me. I was producing a song for Hitomi called Time to Go. I wrote a song. I'm a musician. Time to go, ease your soul. Time
Was
to
this after she
go.
passed or before?
I was writing this song, but I didn't tell anybody about it. I was producing a song for Hitomi. I was working with another musician privately, but the song was Time to Go.
Go.
Time to
Wow.
go. Okay, but this wasn't made public. This was all private. They had a surveillance picture of her in a white dress with the last picture when she was walking to where she was abducted and killed. So anyway, I'm dealing with that. And Lon Vo, the great psychic, her assistant called me and said, Lon Vo needs to talk to you. And I said, wow, why is it? Because Lon Vo, it takes like sometimes 6 months to get an appointment with her. She's so popular. She
Right.
said, Lon Vo needs to talk to you. So I go, okay. So I get on with Lon Vo on Zoom. It was during coronavirus. And Lon Vo said, the woman who died, your friend, she came to me in a dream and she said, I need to talk. I can't get through to Dick. He's too sad, but I know you can. Please tell him I'm okay. It was time to go.
It was time to go like the song. That's so
So Lon Vo said that to me.
that, as painful as it is, it's like telling you that was her contract. Like that was what
Yeah, she contacted Lon Vo and Lon Vo told me, and she said she loves you. She's okay. She's
her
fine. She's
contract, her
happy. She's okay. It was time to go. And I said, oh my God, that's the song number. I have that
but
recorded.
maybe she was like passing the torch to you as well. Like it's time for me to go, but like you have that gift and you have that ability, and like she activated you and left an impression in you that
Yeah.
makes you want to keep that legacy and going because
Or I'll tell you, when you get a message that Lon Vo is so, when you do a reading with her, it leaves you with such a feeling of like you've talked to an angel.
that's amazing.
She did something. You could look up Dick Allgire. You could Google me and find a lot of information. You could do a reading
Does
on
she
me and
ever
tell me.
do interviews? Is she private?
English is her second language, and I'm going to try to do I'm going to try to, I know her family and she respects me, so I'm going to try to go do it. I want to memorialize her somewhere. She's getting older.
Yeah, mini short or
She told me, she said, oh, you have a wife. She's a beautiful lady. She's young looking. Her name is Minnie. My wife's name is Minnie Oak. And she goes, she makes you ginger tea every morning. She's so good to you. And she said, her mother's name is Kuiso. And that was her name. She said, the mother gave you the thing around your neck. You don't wear it. You got to wear it. And the mother had given me a wood like necklace that was a tree that got hit by lightning and the monks
oh, so
blessed
it's
it.
super special and it probably
Ooh,
activated.
Lon Vo knew about that. Like that's a
Wow,
detail.
that's the thing. You got to wear the necklace. Yeah,
So,
like this is insane. Like because what you're getting is like, not it's not about me, but the synchronicities and like the stuff that has happened. But you actually like follow it. Like you put the necklace on, right? Did you notice
oh
something?
yeah.
Something actually happened after that? Because
Well, yeah.
did you get like a visit?
Anyway, Lon Vo is
The real deal.
amazing psychic. Amazing to have that. To have her call me out of the blue and say the woman in white knows you're sad and doesn't want you to be sad. And she said it was time to go. And that was the song I was writing. Like,
That's insane. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's
oh,
just
it's
pure
beautiful.
inspiration. Yeah,
That's
it's
beautiful. But I still cry every time I tell the story.
oh my gosh. And to get like, I mean, that's when I used to watch Teresa Caputo because she would be able to pass on those messages. And then, people, have all the different opinions. But I think anybody that can give somebody a peaceful message from beyond is doing such soul work because we carry that burden as a human the rest of our life and our mind can't let go of it. But real quick, I just want to let you know. So Tom Massari was one of the ones who he taught Bashar, and his name's Abram, and he was like, why he was saying, why hasn't he done the art? Meaning my husband Jeff. He's like, why hasn't he done the art? He needs to do the art. And he kept telling him. And then like 6 months or 7 months later, he was doing a procedure for his job, and the trainer was there, and the lady, it was during COVID, and the lady had a mask on, and she takes her mask off. She goes, I'm sorry, I never do this, but your team keeps coming through and they keep saying, why haven't you done the art? Why haven't you done the art? So he comes home and he tells me, and I go, I told you you have a team. You didn't believe me. I told you that they're rooting for you and you have to ask. You don't believe me. Fine. I said, but now you hear it from some stranger in a chair that's getting like a treatment done. And you're like telling me, but then I said, you have to do the art. But we couldn't figure out what the art was because he doesn't like any of the type of thing. But art can be anything. And when I had this whole renaissance like a year ago, where all of a sudden I couldn't stop creating, it's like the art is just anything that you could do to transmute this dense energy or transmute a sad situation to the lotus flower. And when you create and you tap into it, or even if you explore your gift, like someone says you're a seer and you take that serious, then you get more of it versus like a muscle, you don't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool that you got confirmation, but then you also got a little bit of closure on such a horrific thing. But it is bittersweet. I can't imagine, the emotion. You must have been soul fam.
Yep. So do you have some cryptocurrency?
Okay, so I'm an X. I bought XRP, and then right after, like I had it, and then we sold it at 11 cents, and whatever it was, and then we got it back in like a dollar, whatever. And like I was so excited because I quit my job, and I'm like, show me a sign that I didn't do something insane, quitting biotech for 25 years. And then all of a sudden, I invest in crypto, and we go for this run, and everything's like exploding, and I'm like, what are the? Because I bought the ISOs, and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, but I was heavy on XRP and heavy on Cardano and have, the typical ones anyway. And I had the blast, like it was growing great. And then all of a sudden, like, recently, as you know, everything is just like that. But I knew this was coming because we're at that final, like, merging point where everything's coming to a head, everything must come out, everything must be released. And like poor Mother Earth's like having volcanoes and earthquakes, which would send her love. But it's like this explosion of energy. And right now, with everything being manipulated, I feel like it's all going to go down. Then it's going to start coming back up. Now you would know. So what can you tell me?
Okay, it's a long story. I have a really interesting life. So I was a TV newscaster and I get involved in remote viewing, and I gained some skill as a remote viewer, and I did a few targets that looked at historical events, and it got the attention of people that in that hierarchy of the Pope and somebody who is a representative of one level of that set up a meeting with me.
I'm just kidding.
I had a meeting with someone who said you could remote view and we could create a website and people would pay to see what you do. And I went, hold on, I don't know you. My teacher said keep money out of it. My teacher would never let money get. I would be hesitant to remote view for money because it's not 100%. I think if I did bad, I'd feel like I'd
Because you're sensitive and you care, and that's the thing.
yeah, I'm not sure money should be involved with this skill. And he said, okay, no problem. He said, can we talk later? I said, sure. So 3 weeks later, my phone rings, and it's this overseas call. I go, these Indian call scammers, and I almost hung up. I just said, hello. And he went, Vic, it's so-and-so. And I go, I don't know you. He goes, no, I spoke with you on the phone with Harry. Oh, yeah, okay, no, I'm sorry. He goes, well, you have a few minutes. So he started telling me like the history of the world, starting with the Vienna Congress, how royal families got together and
The loyal titles and Queen Victoria and King
yes,
George.
and I'm writing notes furiously.
Yep.
So
And how all these wars were made up, and the
yeah,
Vatican even had Hitler
so,
brought up into power. There's a lot going on
so
there.
fast forward, he said, Dick, you have some skill as a remote viewer, and he told me something that I'd done. He said, we know you drew the place because we know where that is. It was the cemetery where Hitler was buried in South America. And
That's
so he
weird.
goes, you
It's
did
me. That's
exactly.
weird. I must be picking up on telepathy that I brought him up right after you said.
Yeah. So he said, you have self illuminated, you're in the priest class now, And there's something you should know.
Uh-huh.
People of your skill should never worry about money and never, you should be able to be as comfortable as possible and not worry about money and think your own thoughts and do what you want to do. And he said, we are in transition to a new financial system. It is all going to go digital. If you invest in cryptocurrency, you'll be wealthy. And I said, okay. I didn't know anything about, I'd heard of Bitcoin, and I'm Googling, I'm trying to get, I was like, I have no idea, God. And I taught myself. So the point I'm trying to make is when you said it's all going down, yes, we're in the transition to a new financial system. The old system of administering planet Earth is falling by the wayside. It was you have nation states that are broken down into counties. Counties is where they count. They do the counting, the accounting of the natural resource, the most valuable renewable resource is human beings.
Yeah, we're a stock or a commodity. We have a birth certificate number
The
and we have
birth
a social security card. Yeah.
That's all going to be administered on the blockchain. You're going to have your
So are we
own.
going to get the $20 million that they have on the New York Stock Exchange that they took out on us? Do we get the $20 million bond when we get our reparations, or what do they call it back? Nasara, Jasara?
Did you ever look at the bonds on your birth certificate? There was a site where you could do that.
Yeah, there's the QSIP number.
It's not there anymore. You used to be able to go in. There was a site, and it was like this open secret. You could type in your social security number, and it would show the bonds against your certificate. Like my wife looked at hers, I looked at mine, and it was all there. That has disappeared. It's on a different site. They're now
I
going to
just want
go.
to know how they rate you. How do they even rate you as chattel? Like, how do they think
Well,
who's better than
okay.
who?
If you're born as a rice farmer in Thailand, northern Thailand, they can compute how much you're going to generate being a rice farmer in Thailand. You're not going to move, 100 miles from your house. If you grow up in the United States and get a college education, you're going to generate much more income because you're going to travel, you're going to have a
Mhm.
business, you're going to buy a car, you're going to buy a house. So
This
they,
makes so much sense. This is why they pick like the Taylor Swifts and the people that
okay,
get really
do
powerful,
you want me to really blow your mind?
like Oprah, right?
Okay, I'm gonna give you a really good one. I haven't released this
This
yet. I'm
is
gonna
so
put
exciting. This
it
is like the best conversation I've ever had in my entire life. I'm sorry.
okay. Without getting into political
Yes,
debate over
right,
immigration or
right. They're all
uh,
actors anyway. They're all playing roles. Nobody's even
yeah,
like who they
yeah.
are. So, okay.
Why are so many Chinese students in America getting PhDs? What's the financial motivation behind that?
Doesn't
Okay.
China own all of our food, our farming, all of the base
So
area?
China has been buying our debt.
Right.
China has been
So
the
the debt that we caused on purpose in order to
yeah.
be able to make the dollar go to 4 cents
Uh,
and then to be able to make them, make deals with other places and print more money because they wanted to bankrupt this country.
Well, if you Google the Lima Declaration of 1975,
Mhm.
you can see a United Nations organization. They outlined and said in black and white, and it was published in 1975. The initial agreement was a treaty in 1972. What the administrator of the world said in this document was the Western industrialized world has too much concentrated wealth. We need to move that to the developing world, to Asia, Mexico. What happened with the moving all of our manufacturing to Vietnam, Indonesia, China, South Korea was dictated in this declaration in 1972. That's how far in advance the administrators of Earth.
It's a game and there's a playbook and they have it. And they,
Okay,
whether it's the chronograph, the chronover, or if it's just the people behind the curtain, somebody has
so
a playbook.
we owe China a lot of money.
Of
We're in
course.
debt to China. When you bring a Chinese student to America and give them a PhD education at Stanford, Harvard, or anywhere else, it increases the value of their birth certificate.
Oh, it's like
So
an
their
out
birth
of, it's like a
certificate,
foreign.
it used to be worth $8 million, is now worth $20 million. So if you have 350,000 Chinese students that all increase the value of their birth certificate by $10 million, That's a lot of money in the
Okay, but
conflict.
here's what I don't understand. It's because of the tax structure and they're taking that much money out of them. Like, where is the value that they want? Or is it just the level of status and frequency they get to that they're like, okay, if we can get, because the more people that seem to get to the $1 billion mark, that's where they seem to get really dark. Like,
When children were born in a kingdom before nation states, when it was a kingdom, the king used to have to put the weight of the child in gold into a treasury on an account to pay for the infrastructure that would support the life that that child would then become a farmer
right,
and
it would work.
generate.
And they would all get a piece of it. That makes
Yeah,
so
they
much
all get a
sense.
piece of it. So what happens is when you are, and I couldn't, it would have been forbidden for me, like 2 years ago, I couldn't have said this, but
No.
your certificate is a certificate of ownership, your birth certificate, and there's a prepaid account at the Bank for International Settlements.
Hmm.
That's what the Bank for International Settlements is settling the accounts. The
Hmm.
Red Cross, when you die, the
Hmm.
Red Cross goes around the world and settles the account, whatever jurisdiction you're in, they get a payout.
And if they get your organs and all that too, which
And
they have people represented, that's a whole nother thing. But it's all even
so
FEMA, all of it.
the point of this for people listening is
Mm,
it's all going to be digital. It's all going to be on. They've waited for a moment that, okay, blockchain technology probably predates our civilization. There have been a number of civilizations on Earth. There's civilizations out in the galaxy all over the
right.
place.
Like in Antarctica, isn't there a whole like another
Yeah,
incidents that are big? That's the other thing I needed to clarify because people who think the world is flat or it's I think it's a toroidal smushed sphere that's
Toronto,
like a donut.
Toronto, Toronto.
Toroidal, yeah. And is it squished a little bit, like a little bit more of like a squished, almost like a
Yeah,
because the water bulges out at the equator.
yeah.
So okay, cool. So now
So,
it's Thomas.
so the accounting system is going to be, everything is going to be tokenized. Every transaction on Earth is going to have a digital certificate to it. You will have your own blockchain, and you're moving toward that right now with a digital identity. So all the medical information,
Right.
it's all going to be on your blockchain. Your blockchain will interact with other blockchains. I think you'll be very happy, but not investment advice. The ISO 222 tokens, which bar XRP will do. I bought XRP at, I think, 12, 15 cents.
That's awesome because it
It's
went down so
two,
far.
10 cents. That's like a 13, 1,300% increase.
I mean,
So
yeah, I
what
mean, it's
my
very
mentor told me that I wouldn't have to worry about money. I no longer worry about money. I'm comfortable.
well, it's
I
funny
just
because I
smoke
quit
you.
my job in December with for no money, and yet like I've come closer to all these opportunities that I ever have when I had a job, and I keep pushing them away and going, no, 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 like donate that or I don't want that. But
Yeah.
there's also a point of don't you have to learn to receive and exchange that? Like, isn't there a point of like a vibrational exchange? Because people tell me like, oh, you have to receive it or it's not going to be a full exchange of energy. And I'm just like, but it feels weird. I'd rather just do it and give it. Like it's a weird thing.
In terms of work,
In terms of money, like I love working and creating, but then when people try to give me money, I always say no thank you, or I try to say, don't worry about it, or give it to somebody else. And it's a weird like self-worth thing, or is it
I went through that with my remote viewing because I never wanted to be paid for remote. Courtney Brown gave me a few
paid for
bucks.
being yourself though? That's what it is. I mean, anybody else who's a singer, a skilled person, or even the people.
Yeah, yeah, you're going to pay a plumber or a dentist
Yeah,
to
there's
do a good
still
job. So there's nothing wrong with being compensated for your time and effort.
how'd you get over it though?
When I started future forecasting, I didn't take any money for the first year and a half. I said I don't need money. I wanted to have the freedom to be able to say no.
Right.
And then eventually started doing so well that they said, "Hey, we got to give you a cut." And I said, "Okay." So I bought my wife a nice car.
But
So
is
I,
it so
I,
do you think we have the same thing where we don't want to feel contracted or obligated or stuck in
yeah,
one right? It's almost like you wanted because I love to do a lot of things and I'm like,
I don't want to be a remote viewing hoe. I don't want to be somebody's tool. And I have
that
the
goes
freedom.
with the sovereignty thing though too. Like people we have the ability with technology and AI and all these other factors to be able to start a business to then do remote viewing or start a business to be even just, somebody in the spiritual community. because normally you would need staff or you need help, like people running podcasts by themselves because they have a production studio in front of them
Yeah.
from the software. So there's so many good aspects to the AI. It connects people in social media. I never would have met all these wonderful people and started groups together and led to meeting you.
We're having a fabulous experience in this life on this planet. I mean, I'm having a great time, aren't
We
you?
must be on the golden timeline because I mean, I'm not political at all, but I mean, it seems like all these things are being fixed, right? That like were an issue, just the where,
We're going to go through some trying times this year and next year, and
talk
then,
about that a little bit because that's where I think most people are. If they know what to expect, they'll be less scared if they're prepared and they can wrap their brain around it versus what the news is going to tell them.
well, I was on the news. I produced the news. I wrote the news. I was a reporter. I haven't done that for 12 years. As recently as, yeah, 10, 12 years ago, I covered presidents. Like I covered Obama, Clinton, Bush, both Bushes, Reagan, senators.
He was an astrologist for everything.
He did. Yeah. Yeah, he did. I covered senators, congressmen, city council members, neighborhood board members for many years. None of them ever knew my politics,
Wow. See,
which
I'm not political either.
I was politically agnostic. As a
But are
reporter,
you that neutral? You're like me, where you don't take a side because every time you take a side, it's only going to prove you wrong anyway. The universe is you testing yourself.
yeah,
So you stay neutral and you just give everybody the ability to express themselves and don't judge them.
I would interview someone and have them state their case. And then I would find someone who had a contrary opinion. And I would say, tell me your opinion. And then anything I said was attributed to a source. I wouldn't say, the tariffs are going, I'd say, this economist says the tariff. I would
Right.
attribute, but I
You
just,
find a way not to judge or take
and
a
look
side.
at what is masquerading as news, and they will say something, well, this is good news for us, like
Right.
meaning you're the president. Like, if I ever said that, my news director would pull me in and fire me immediately if I tweeted a political
But how are
opinion.
they allowed to get away with the news saying, oh, in Florida being an issue and that's BS or that doesn't exist? Like I've heard them literally say and no, and then you have actual evidence coming out and rules are changing and laws are
Because
changing and
the
state.
whole system is being broken down. People are losing their faith in medicine, judiciary, education, politicians, the courts, everything, news media. You're losing your faith in everything by design because they're going to bring in a new system that's based on consensus and blockchain. It's going to be a whole different world.
But isn't it a good thing that Trump didn't, or whoever, I'm not political, but isn't it a good thing that we didn't sign the
I
CBDC?
don't, I
Yeah, because those are the
they
most
gamble their
controlling.
money.
So, right. So at least we have the choice to use the ISOs and to have our own, type choices versus what the EU is going to do. That's even more
This
controlled.
This is certainly once in a lifetime, but probably once in almost a millennium. The transfer of wealth is going to be amazing, and people that own cryptos now are going to be very comfortable in the new system. So don't take financial advice from me. I'm just a
I,
retired reporter, and I'm not a financial guy. I'm a remote viewer, so don't believe anything I say. I think that, I mean, I'm already quite comfortable because I got into crypto 7 years ago. I think
right.
Bitcoin's going to be
I was going to say, what's Bitcoin
140.
at right now? What do you think it is? What is it right now?
It's
90s?
there. It's 91, I think.
Perfect. Okay.
It's
Let's
going to go
do.
to 140 this year. And
I
when
mean,
it
look at
goes up,
the,
all the altcoins will follow.
right. I mean, like
Because,
Michael Saylor, look how much he's invested. Look at all these people, BlackRock. I mean, you see all this data. You see all these Bank of America joining with XRP. You see all this information. How could it
when I,
not
when
panic?
I got involved with cryptos, the big people, Trump said, it's a scam. I like the US dollar. Now he's saying, think of BlackRock. Oh, it's a scam. Now he's saying,
We said
well,
the
they
same. Yeah, they all
can
flipped.
restore value. I'll tell you why they needed to do that because they wanted an orderly transition to the new system. And if they would have endorsed it early, it would have crashed the system.
That's
So
true.
they're just step by step, gradually endorsing it. And you're going to see the system is starting to falter now when stocks will drop Bitcoin doesn't.
Okay, I gotta download that something's gonna happen in New York City with the New York Stock Exchange. I don't know why. Something there that's going to either like not make it as important of a place, and it's gonna go to where it's Texas is now, and it's
Yeah,
gonna be something else. And I also saw some sort of, and I'm hoping it's a different timeline, but I started weeping like a week ago and I couldn't stop crying. And I felt like I was saying goodbye to millions of people that I didn't want to like leave behind. And I was just like sorrow and crying. So like Sarah
yeah,
Bressman Cosme, who's I don't know if you know Sarah Bressman Cosme. She works with Dolores Cannon. When she told me that this was like a collective sorrow from Atlantis of like, the feelings. But then she told me also, I can't tell you what's been said for my clients, but there is an agenda that's still going on. And so I said, well, can't we send love to it? If we send love to that timeline and we say we do not consent, and just like when they give you information ahead of time, can't that change the actual timeline so that we can send love to it and raise it higher or get in a higher one?
for me, that's a step too far to say that just by my not consenting, I can change things.
But that's free will. Otherwise, they're violating
Well,
free will.
I think there's decision space. You can have a decision space in what's happening,
Hmm.
and you can make the decision to. I know people I respect greatly that have moved to a safer place inland,
Hmm.
that have divested their stock. I mean, I showed the stock market.
Did you see Florida going down at all in the water? Because I saw that and I didn't want to like put that out there, but I just want to make sure I'm all.
I've seen water events in my remote viewing. Like you mentioned the stock exchange, like you can't have a stock exchange if it's 6 feet under muddy, mucky sewer water.
Yeah, and is it because of rains, heavy rains almost coming down, or is it some other type of event? Yeah. Disclaimer, opinion only.
I have, there have been catastrophes on this earth before, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a cyclical thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
And the poles are
I
shifting
think you're
slightly.
gonna, you're seeing all these fires, and
Mm-hmm.
the fires, what that does is they've been using fires throughout history. Burn Rome, burn London, burn
Right.
San
They burned all the major cities down, world fairs, all of that.
Francisco, they build them up again. Or you burn a city down and then the insurance company says, well, we can't insure that anymore, so people can't move back in, and they make it an open space for rich
Or
people. You're going
15-minute
to see
cities, stuff like that.
the climate is heating up, not from me driving a SUV, it's from the sun giving out more energy because the
Solar
solar
cycle
system is
25,
moving. Okay. So
photonic
you can
belt.
see earthquakes, tsunamis, flooding from storms, all of the above.
I'm getting all of it, and I don't want to say anything to anybody because I can feel it. And I'm like, the other day, I'm like, I keep getting an earthquake, a big earthquake. And then one happened, I looked on the thing and I'm like, and then a solar flare hits, and I'm like, oh my God, another big earthquake. And then it's just so like, I don't know what to do with the information. Do you not do anything? So that's where you don't want to get people afraid. But if you can prepare them and we can all meditate on a higher timeline, or at least send love to Mother Earth and make her less, because part of it is Mother Earth is going through a rebirth and she's getting out of her 26,000 cycle and she's
Yeah.
raising. Then another part of it is the emotional state of the humans that are relating to her Schumann resonance, because we're both 7.83 and we're all over the place with our emotions. Then the other part of it is the frequencies that DARPA and everybody else and all of the HARP are throwing at us, and who knows what's going on with CERN. And then there's our own actual ascension, which is supposed to, also give us these types of symptoms. So it can
Yeah.
be, it's like quantum physics, it can be anything and everything. It can be whatever you attribute it to or you believe it is. But how do we get people to not be scared and, prepare?
Well, we each have our own path and our own reason for being here. And I don't know, I don't offer advice to people.
Well, you said the next couple of months it's going to get worse. So is it the areas like where there's the Madrid fault? I keep seeing the Illinois area and that whole faulted area. It's like Missouri and that area. Is there anything going to happen there? Yellowstone, because these are the things that I was feeling like.
Yeah, I worry about Yellowstone. I worry about tsunamis. But, I'm in Hawaii. I can look out and see the ocean right there. My wife and I made the decision. We went to Belize in COVID. Partially, one of my sources told me in the summer of 2019. I was going on a trip, and he said, enjoy that trip, enjoy your family. You won't be able to travel next year. Travel will be very much curtailed in 2020. And I went, why? He said, I can't tell you. And so my wife and I made the decision. We love Hawaii so much. It's like, I'm not going to flee. I'm going to take whatever comes right here. I'm old. I have
You're divinely protected. I truly believe
Well,
everyone's in their
hey,
own
hey,
bubble.
hey, Liz, I've seen so many because I was in the news. There'd be hurricanes bearing down on us like a Category 4, and it just
Exactly.
Hawaii is
There's portals in Hawaii,
it's a
right?
magical
Is there
place.
a portal where children or new souls come through, like a dragon portal or something?
I don't know.
Because
I
I've
don't know,
heard
but
there's portals.
I just know that I came to Hawaii in 1985 and I went, I'm home.
You felt it.
I almost didn't fly back to Utah. I said, I don't even need this ticket back. I'm not going.
That's how I feel about Florida. I love Florida. I like where I used to live in Boca Raton. Then we moved, my parents moved to Sarasota. I love Sarasota. I just love that feeling. Like it's like I know this place. It's comfortable. I could live here. It feels right. It just and
My
you don't
wife,
get that a
my
lot.
wife and I were in Korea. I haven't felt 40 degrees in like 40 years.
Yeah.
And it was like 40 degrees. And I was out on the street waiting for a cab. And it was like, this is insane. And the Korean people were like, this is a nice spring day. You know, it's not
Oh
even
my
cold out here.
goodness. Not even cold. So what about these new this recent thing about the Pope passing? Sorry to everybody, condolences. But at the same time as, you got Schwab
I
retiring.
think that
Is a
that
prophecy
entire
happening?
system of administration of planet Earth is being replaced. It
Of
is
course.
being replaced with, it's going to be run on distributed ledger. That's part of the whole accounting system of humanity. That's my understanding
So you
is that
believe that the ETs are coming in like a year because they say like it's around that time?
I think I would say that what you're going to see is regionalism, and it's part of what Trump is doing with Canada and Greenland.
Hmm.
Is you're going to see one region will be the Americas, including Canada and Greenland. Then
Hmm.
there'll be Asia, and
Hmm.
then Africa, and then yeah, Asia, the Americas, Europe, Africa, and things will be like when Trump says he's bringing back manufacturing. He's not going to bring back people in sweatshops making shoes or people welding. The new manufacturing is going to be 3D printing and robotics,
Right.
and you're going to see
Like NVIDIA.
amazing
Hmm.
technology brought up with AI.
Med beds are coming out to think, we're going to
Yeah,
be healed and be able to have so much more. I feel like that's why I love biotech. Like, I feel like that whole big pharma. In fact, did you see anything about reparations for disability for all of us after they've admitted the fact that they did this? Because my thing is like, if everything's balanced, and a Jasara has to happen because that would only balance out the energy of the golden age because of all the taxes that we paid out voluntarily, or that, all of that. And then it's also part of the sovereignty, like realizing that things are voluntary, like if it's voluntary to pay taxes and we're all doing it, we're only feeding that system as if like, we want it to collapse. Would we want to stop doing things like that?
I just had a tax moment where I took a lot of money out of cryptos last year, and I just paid a lot of money to the U.S. Treasury, and it was like,
Painful. And I said, what do
God, I wrote a check, and but you know what? That's the system we're in. I paid it. I didn't
It's
want to fight it.
brainwashing, though. It really is, because if we're creating our own timelines of reality and we're embodying it, then it just takes that tipping point of enough people saying, we're going to not pay, or we're not going to, like the Boston Tea Party,
They've got us well trained.
well trained. So maybe we need a ritual to deprogram us from the training of the Matrix. Have you looked?
Well, okay.
And by the way, did you
It,
finally get to the guy that
what made me mad about writing that big check to that, and I went to the state of Hawaii. I mean, a very large check. I'm lucky I was able to do that, but I know that the system's going to change, and in the future, it's going to be there will be no income tax. It will be point of transaction on the blockchain. So they'll just shave a little bit off, and
Right,
it'll
but
be
they're going to
no
give
big deal.
that back. They have to because they already gave back, other things, and they even made people whole. I think from that first crypto scam, FTX or something like that. Those
Yeah,
people got paid first. So like I grew up in New York, and you used to see the debt clock in New York City as you're heading in through
yeah.
the tunnel. And I always thought as a child, like, that's horrible. Like, I always felt bad, like, oh my God, look how much we owe countries. Like, and then now we're seeing the opposite with Doge, depending on, people's perspective. You're still seeing a lot of the people who are paid who are dead. I'm not talking about the important programs that people are concerned about, but the other side of it, the excess that was just given to people that didn't even exist. And all of that money that's being brought back is almost it's on like a reverse clock showing us
Yeah.
what they're bringing in. But the energy then has to go to the people in order for us to have that full circle integration of almost like an Asara Jasara, where the redistribution of wealth. So I'm convinced that if we were, if there is proof about what happened with the jab, and that, we can talk about that at some point because you can't really talk about right
Well,
now.
we're at a point where a lot of these secrets are going to come out. They're going to be
Sad.
revealed. A lot of this, there's going to be a lot of really ugly
When?
information.
When? When? In the next 2 months when everything's going on, or is it going to be after that? Or people kind of come
I
together
think
and
it's
you
going to
just
be ongoing. I think it's going to start pretty soon. I mean, it's already happening. If you're paying attention,
it is happening.
they've already admitted that the COVID came from a lab. They haven't admitted that they
But nobody
released it
sees
on
it
purpose.
until they get the mainstream media down. Nobody sees it. Like I talk to people who, and they're like, "What?"
Mainstream media is irrelevant now. It's getting out to people that have. It's like UFOs.
Mhm.
We know damn well that there's aliens flying around all over the place. If anybody that cares to look at that information, they can find it and they know. And those who aren't ready to hear it, well, they can go in their own little cocoon and it's not being forced on them. I mean, at some point,
Do you think those ladies went to space or went to the perimeter of space?
I think what?
That the women recent flight,
Oh,
the
that looked a little.
do you think they get like their brain programmed so that it's almost like they truly believe they did it, even though like almost like a mind wipe reverse? Because if they can mind wipe you from the 20 and back,
I think they probably went up and touched space and then came right back down. It was a
right?
pretty easy thing.
A little weird. There's no airlock on the door. It was a little weird the way like
It did look a little fishy.
it was worse than like Stanley Kubrick trying to do like the whole moon landing. It was getting like almost like they're getting ridiculous. They're leaving like their Starbucks cup or something like
Yeah.
on the moon, like it's getting like the last season of Game of Thrones,
Well, I
so they
think
got
the truth
lazy.
may be that the Germans went to the moon in the 30s.
We didn't even win World War II. The whole thing was a ruse. Like it was all about technology. It's always been about what can we trade out with people, technology.
Well, the formal end of World War II was 1952 when the UFOs appeared over the U.S. Capitol. Look it up. You see the
Oh, and they
UFO
said no
landed.
more bombs, no more like they were like, don't you can't do anymore. They
Yeah,
just
and then they told us about it in Hollywood movies.
so Maria Orsic, because you know so much about her, she worked with Hitler, right? And she got the draconian energies pulled through, or was it Aldebaran? She worked with Aldebaran or one of them.
I
Aldebaran.
don't know which. I didn't know about her when I remote viewed her, but I said
You didn't know about the Thule and the Vril Society? Oh my gosh, I've been obsessed with them.
well,
That's
I
amazing.
remote viewed her, but I wasn't really familiar with it. I'd heard
Did
of the
she look
Grill Society.
gorgeous? Was she absolutely gorgeous?
What I got was I popped out of Target and I knew I was in the early part of the 20th century because of the way the cars were. Like it was a place where they still used a horse and wagon, but then they had some cars that went pop, 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 pop. You still there? Are we still here?